Well, good morning, everyone, once again. Time for the third hour of a Teaching and Learning with Technology Symposium. My name is Rob Fain. I am an instructional designer at RIT. This symposium is organized by the Finger Lakes Faculty Development Network, instructional designers, academic technologists from various campuses from Syracuse to Buffalo and everywhere in between. If you want more information on this, there is an email address on the door. And we begin this hour with John Jiras and Sue Me from RIT.
Welcome, everyone. Our presentation is on LIV at RIT, Learning Information Veracity at RIT. I'll start with a little background on our project, how it came about. And it's a library initiative. Every fall, traditionally, the library staff would give library tours to all of our incoming freshmen. So what this encompassed is part of the first year experience for our freshman students. Approximately 2,400 incoming students. It involved about 100 tours over the time period of 2 to 3 weeks. It was a good opportunity for the staff to get an introduction to the students, for the students to get an intro tour to the library, but at the same time it was pretty intensive for all of us involved. So as a result of a change in focus in our staff resources, a reorganization, and a restructuring of the first year program, last year we took it upon ourselves to come up with these modules and develop an online series of tutorials that would kind of meet the need and deliver the information that we were delivering through these tours, plus more. So we developed, our goal was to deliver the library information in a fun, interactive way, but we also wanted these tutorials to be self-paced, modular, and customized at the college level. So our implementation timeline was 4 months when we came up with the idea and decided what we wanted to do. And our team consisted of 4 reference librarians, and John was the technology aspect from the library staff, and he had some students helping him as well. So in our initial audience was the first year students. As it turned out, after the tools were developed, we found that grad students, international students, transfer students were also interested in using the tutorials as well. So what it is, essentially, is a series of self-paced information tutorials. Those of you that are from the library world are probably familiar with TILT, the Texas Information Literacy tutorials that were developed in 1998. Pilot is a subsequent derivative of that program, and we looked at a lot of different existing tutorials that were out there. We didn't want to just go out and initially reinvent what was already in existence, so we kind of went from what was out there. But we had some definite ideas. We knew we wanted customization levels at the college level, and we knew we wanted to, add some different features. So we finally settled on Pilot as something that we could start from and kind of work from there. So the librarians ended up kind of being the content drivers and designers. John made it all work. There was some negotiation involved. No, you can't do that. Yeah. And then he would come back with different ideas and kind of went from there. So I'm going to turn the next few slides over to John.
Okay, so Tilton Pilot is an application that was written in 1998, and it's essentially 190 pages of static HTML. All the headers and footers are embedded in each individual page. It's a nightmare, and if you were doing something today, you would not approach it in the way that they did in 1998. So the first thing that we came up with, the first idea we had, was that we have to port this to a content management system. There's also a bunch of quizzes that are PHP and JavaScript based. There are animated GIFs that are kind of hokey. Maybe that was hot stuff in 1998, but in 2011 and 2010 it was kind of out of place. There are some embedded Flash games within the content itself, and those were pretty cool. There were games where you could sort of drag and drop books to show the order in LC call number ranges, and there were games where it would tell you, you want to know the final score of a baseball game, and it would say, what's the best source of information? You have 5 seconds to choose, whether it's the web, a book, a magazine article, a peer-reviewed journal, etc. And those were good. Those were working and nice. We did have to edit those games and add our own branding, and we had all the original Flash files. The people from Sacramento City College were thrilled to give it to us, and we were very appreciative of that. So what were our improvements? First thing we did is we used authentication for the campus LDAP logins. We do authentication so that we can track student progress, and we'll get to why we're doing that in a bit. We also ported the content to Drupal. This, of course, let us do the usual benefits of porting to a content management system is that it separates content from presentation. You can style it very easily. It's global formatting. And perhaps the most important is that the instruction staff can edit the content themselves with zero HTML skills. They just go to a website, they log in, and they pull up the WYSIWYG editor right within the content management system and change the content without involving any technology staff, and they feel empowered to experiment and change and do it themselves without having to open up Dreamweaver and edit HTML code or deal with tables and you know, styling within the HTML. It's all done via the content management system. We also wanted to fork the content, so at certain points, the content splits out into different colleges. RIT is organized via 8 colleges, and we wanted our content to be directed to students from each college. So at a certain point, the content forks out, and it comes back together. And having it in the content management system allowed that very easily to do. We also had some existing Captivate tutorials that we wanted to embed. So we have some introductory videos from each of the librarians. They introduce themselves, explain that they're there to serve them and what they can do for the individual students. So we wanted those introductory videos in there. And we have some tutorials where these were produced a while ago, and it's how to search a catalog, some other ones too. And so we were able to use that content in this new system as well. Some more improvements that we did, we added 2 additional modules. That was just the reference staff wanted to change the organization of the information, so they added a couple of other modules. We edited the existing and added additional Flash components. We updated and replaced the images. We also did some statistical reporting on the system. We're able to pull data like the number of students who are using it, the number of instructors who've actually assigned it, and things like that. And that was not part of the original Tilton Pilot implementation, so we were easily able to add that by just adding some PHP that looks at our databases. But the really cool things are the last 2 points here. We made this system course aware. So it uses an API to our data feed that we use to populate our courseware management system. So we have that data in a MySQL database, and we normalize it and then use it to populate our learning management system. While it sits in that database, and it uses a nightly feed, we have access to that data. So we're able to query it and pull course enrollment. So what that means is that instructors can log in and track the progress of their students and see the actual grades that they got, the number of modules that they completed. And this, all of a sudden, makes this system available as a course assignment. So it's no longer just something that we have that people may or may not use. It actually is available to be integrated into the curriculum if instructors want to do that. And then we added an element of gamification. So within like Grand Theft Auto or some other video game, you can unlock achievements, and we made it so that as you complete a quiz, you can unlock an achievement. And I'm going to show you screenshots because we don't have time to actually do a demo, but this is the home page here. This is a list of all the modules. As they hover over each of the modules, it lets them get into the content. Here's a sample page of a content, very styled, very simply. It's just plain text. There are some pages where there are images and there are embedded Flash. Essentially, it's just a web page that's in Drupal. Here's a quiz question, example of a quiz, of a question. So you would answer, what are the criteria important for evaluating a resource? And there's a list, you can check all that apply. Here's a quiz answer. It's actually not the answer to the previous question. Maybe I should have added the answer to that question. Here's the end of a quiz. And if you notice at the bottom, it says achievement unlocked. Be sure to view your achievements. When you go there, you can see your achievements. This is what it looks like when the student first goes to look at their achievements. You'll notice that they're all locked. They have question marks on them. And then as they complete each module, it unlocks that achievement. And this adds an element of gamification. So this is what the badges look like as they unlock them. They use the iconography of our mascot, Richie. He's a tiger. RIT is the mascot is the tigers. So we use, and there's a guy who walks around campus dressed up as a tiger. His name is Richie. So we used him in the individual badges, and we had one of our artists create this. She's very talented and did a great job. After they complete all the quizzes, they also get to unlock a final achievement. And we give them this, we display this message here, and we say, click here to view the final reward. So once you do all of the modules, you then get a final achievement. And the final achievement is our university president and our mascot in the library talking about how essential the library and helpful the librarians are for their career here at RIT. And it was fun. It's a 3-minute video. It's specially protected so that only people who complete these modules can see it. You cannot go to that video or share it in any other way. The only way you get to see it is if you actually complete the modules. I guess there might be some students who might be able to record it in some other way and share it, but we sort of want to lock it down and keep it as a final reward. Here's the instructor login. You can see that when you log in, you can come here and it'll immediately show all the classes for which you are teaching. This login is limited to instructors. And again, it uses the data that feeds our learning management system. And it's showing all the courses that I'm teaching. Here is a sample page for once you select a course, you can see that there are students listed on the left. I've obscured the names of the students for privacy reasons, but you can see that they have grades and they've completed each of the quiz. The first student here on the first line has yet to complete quiz number 8. The grades tend to be pretty good. So I guess this is actually Sue's course. They were a good bunch of students.
Sure, but you can also retake the quizzes, so if a student didn't achieve the score that they were satisfied with, they could go back and repeat the quiz.
Here are some of the stats. I took this screen capture last week. You can see that there were 32 instructors who've used this system and 512 students. And I can see which modules were being used, a breakdown of each of the module uses listed there. Module 7, which I guess is plagiarism, tends to be the most highly used, which is interesting. And there are some live reports that we generate using Google Charts API. And now Sue's going to talk a bit some more about some other perspectives of this.
Yeah. So after we developed it, we went through all these number of different tutorials. There's different reasons that it might be of value based on who the users are. So from the instructor perspective, it's of value because they could assign it immediately to all of the modules, to the entire class. They could assign it as extra credit, or they could count the quizzes as a portion of the total grade. They might want to assign only individual modules to particular students who they find are struggling with particular research methods and haven't had this type of review, or maybe didn't learn it in high school, needed to receive it again. Or maybe even we have found, received this as feedback, graduate students, maybe that it's been a while since they've been in school, or they're not used to using online resources, that sort of thing. so that the individual instructor can point them to this resource and they can review this independently on their own. So it's a standalone instruction that the instructor can point students to just take it and view and learn at their own pace. From our perspective as librarians, it's useful as an official assignment, again, to an entire class or as an individual student assignment. It can be targeted to different user groups. As I said, we developed it initially for first-year students, but we're finding from the feedback we're receiving that it's appealing to wider groups as well. So we're finding more and more people are using it, much more than we initially thought would find it. And also as librarians, what we like is that it's so easily updatable for us. We don't have to go running to John or any of the people in the technology group every time we want to change something. The catalog changes, an interface in a database changes, or a staff member changes, any little change, or we want to add something, we can easily do it ourselves and do it on the fly. That's worth a lot. And then from the student perspective, to go to the modules on their own. They don't have to single themselves out that they have a skill that they're lacking. They can go to it, they can go through it on their own pace, and they can bring themselves up to speed and don't have to, single themselves out as needing this. And the gaming element makes learning kind of dry library information or research information a little bit more fun. That's what we're hoping. And the ability to retake the quizzes to improve their scores. So if an instructor is counting it as course credit, and maybe it's 10%, you can retake this and get a solid 100%. And that is a given that you're going to get a perfect score there. So we think that's a positive. So some future things that we are hoping to address.
All right. So we had a 4-month implementation window, and it was over the summer, pretty much most of it, and it was intense, and we were banging through those modules and adding new modules and getting the quizzes done, working with the whole team, and we sort of rushed the content, frankly. So there's continual refinement of the content, and the best part about that is that the instructional librarians can do that themselves. They don't have to go through any portion of the technology team. We also are considering additional gamification. We might add some additional mini games within the content itself, and we might add something like a leaderboard or some sort of social aspects, like maybe being able to share the badges on Facebook or something. We're not sure. We're looking for ideas about that. The quizzes are still using the old-fashioned Tilton Pilot quizzes, so they're still static PHP pages, and they aren't Drupalized. So maybe what we'll do is we Drupalize the quizzes, and then that gives the librarians the ability to edit the quiz questions and answers too, right from within Drupal. But for this audience, probably what is most interesting about this isn't the fact that this is a library instructional module, but it's the framework. It's this idea of having somewhere the ability to make available life skills instruction that is independent of the curriculum or goes through the entire curriculum, but has the flexibility of being incorporated into the curriculum if the instructor wants that. So maybe some additional things where this type of method could be applied would be like time management or study skills or student worker training or thesis and dissertation management or some other skill that the student needs that sort of is across the curriculum that they may not get within the curriculum but is flexible enough to be added to the curriculum without any intervention with us or the faculty member. So we are curious about what you think of this framework, and maybe do you see any other sort of implementations for it?
Especially, I think, with the ability to branch, that option there, I think there's a lot.
So I think what we'll do is we'll open the floor to questions. We'll sort of get your general feedback. Anybody have any questions? Yes?
Where does the tracking data go, or does it go anywhere?
The question is, where does the tracking data go, or does it go anywhere? The tracking data is kept at the student level. So if more than one instructor assigns the modules, it goes with the student. We didn't do it at the class level. The reason we didn't do it at the class level was because this is not essentially a curriculum-based subject. We have a flexibility of having it being curriculum-based, but we have an interest as library staff to get this knowledge out there, independent of whether or not the faculty assign it or not. We aren't dependent on the faculty to assign information veracity skills in their curriculum. We have this content out there. The individual students can use it independent of a class. So it stays with the student. We haven't done any deletions yet, but essentially at some point we will delete them.
We've talked about, should we delete the scores every quarter, every academic year? And we also talked about the quizzes. Should we put in a minimum quiz score in order to advance to the next, but we left that wide open too. So we've made it really very loose in general as far as those kinds of terms.
Our main goal was to provide content and quizzing that is flexible enough for us to present that data to students or to allow it to be easily implemented in the curriculum. Yes?
Feedback from faculty at all?
Yeah, the feedback's been very positive. We have a campus in Kosovo where the faculty member shared with us. She had the students write an essay at the end, and she had them do all 8 modules. And she shared all the essays with us, and it was very informative. And of course, international students, English is not the first language, so maybe the need was a little bit more than our students here on the RIT campus would be. But they found it to be very helpful, particularly the plagiarism, the citing. They're not getting that as much as maybe our students would be in high schools here. But they found it to be very, very helpful, and also as a good introduction to using library resources. But even the feedback that we received from the first-year faculty instructors here was positive, and that the students said that they weren't aware of these kinds of resources, and maybe they had some exposure in high school, but not to this extent. So everything we've received so far has been very positive. Some students said, oh, I knew this, but it would probably be very helpful to other students. That kind of thing. It's always someone else who needs it more than me. But yeah, it's been good so far.
Any other questions?
Have the faculty who have used it, were they avid library users, or did they take their classes to the library at other points, or these are new adopters?
I think you're going to have to answer that.
Yeah, I think it's been mixed because we sent out an email to different groups letting them know that the tool was there. And then, so we received feedback kind of through mixed sources and venues. So some definitely were strong library supporters all along. Others were new voices that we heard from. So, and then some were feedback that we heard from students directly. So I suppose there's others that didn't think much of it and just didn't say anything too.
So when you push it to students, you're pushing it just through your content management system, Blackboard or Moodle or whatever it is that you're doing?
We haven't pushed it like in a mass way directly to students. We've pushed it one-on-one to students. If we're meeting with a student, like at the reference desk, someone who's come in for help, or that we're meeting with in our offices, that sort of thing. If an instructor has maybe pushed it individually to a student. But we haven't done a mass mailing. Although we do have it on our plasma screen in the entryway when students come into, or anybody comes into the library, it is promoted there. So they may have picked it up that way.
It's essentially been a soft launch except to the first-year instructors.
So we wanted that to be our target group, and we didn't want them to get it there and then be bombarded with it in other places as well. But then we found that there was interest from other places, so kind of we've been feeling our way. Yes?
I'm just curious about how easy it is to find on your course management system. Do you have to go through a bunch of steps to get through the library to find it, or is it kind of on a welcome page?
It's on our library website.
It's on our library website, yeah, so it's in...
Under the instruction.
Under the instruction area. as far as embedding it into the courseware management system, we haven't even thought about that.
Because I take classes at University of Rochester, and they don't have like an information veracity thing, but they have a couple of links to go to different resources that would be helpful to any student regardless of level, that
It's a
keep
great
me
idea.
from having to dig.
Yeah, I think actually we did talk at one time of putting it on the My Library tab in my courses, and we never got back to it.
That'd
Yeah,
be a
good
good
idea.
idea, yeah.
I think we're out of time. We are around for the rest of the day. If you see us in the hall and you want to talk to us, just come up and talk to us. We have handouts in the back if you're interested. Other than that, we'll turn it back over to the remainder of the time to whoever is next.
Thank you.
Thank you.